So after all the big build-up, starting at Survivor Series of 2003, where Brock Lesnar and Goldberg finally met face-to-face in an interview where Brock Lesnar claimed he could beat anybody in the world, Goldberg interrupted the interview and introduced himself to Lesnar, and shaking hands with him before leaving with a stare down. At that time, Goldberg was World Heavyweight Champion and Brock Lesnar was WWE Champion. I miss the big gold belt. Anyways, they wouldn't interact again until the Royal Rumble 2004, when Lesnar felt insulted that Goldberg was getting an interview about being number 30, whereas Lesnar retained his world championship against Hardcore Holly. And in that match, later on in the Royal Rumble, when Goldberg came out, Lesnar attacked Goldberg despite being in the match and delivered an F5, enabling Kurt Angle to eliminate him. And then that started a huge feud where Brock Lesnar and Goldberg traded insults towards each other, and and like it started getting really dark and whatnot between the two. Like it was getting bad, and then all of a sudden, No Way Out's coming, and he's gonna fight, and Lesnar's gonna fight Eddie Guerrero. Then all of a sudden, Stone Cold Steve Austin gives Goldberg a ticket to go to the show, and that would cause Goldberg to spear Lesnar while the referee was unconscious, and Guerrero would ultimately win the match, even though he survived the spear. But then Eddie Guerrero managed to beat him otherwise, and thus Brock Lesnar blamed Goldberg for what happened at that match, and also Austin. And the match was set up between the two at WrestleMania 20. Stone Cold Steve Austin started getting involved in the feud as to become the special guest referee. Initially, Vince McMahon didn't want the match to happen, in the storyline at least. I don't know about backstage wise. Where he said something regarding a military unit was not able to control these two beasts, and instead Stone Cold Steve Austin decides to officiate the match, despite the fact he's going to be in a battle between two bulls. And Lesnar started attacking Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then started looking like Stone Cold and Lesnar were going to fight, because even though Goldberg and him were going to fight, there were times where you were thinking, are they going to bait and switch us and have Lesnar versus Austin, even though Austin's retired? Because they did get physical on the final week to WrestleMania 20, where Lesnar and Austin were brawling over the fact that Brock Lesnar stole Austin's four-wheeler on Raw. So, anyways, then something bad happened. Like around this time, Goldberg had signed a contract with WWE, which lasted for only 1 year, and his run was pretty disappointing, even though he won the big gold belt as one final world title. And he was going to leave WWE, especially after how he was treated by behind the scenes by the powers that be. So yeah, that unfortunately happened. And then all of a sudden, 1 week before WrestleMania happened, rumors surfaced that Lesnar too was leaving to pursue a career in NFL, which we all know did not work out so well. And Lesnar and Goldberg were both leaving the WWE. This was going to be a big battle of titans, and fans didn't know what to think. Like, it felt like, yeah, this was bad. Like, this was like an insult. Like, I think everyone at that time knew Goldberg was leaving. He had only signed a 1 year deal. But to hear that Lesnar was leaving, because, well, it's always been hotly debated about why Lesnar wanted to leave. Like, one side said that, oh, Lesnar didn't want to work a full-time schedule. He didn't want to be a full-time wrestler. He wanted to be a part-timer guy. He didn't want to work house shows. He didn't give a damn about the fans. Like, even in WWE storylines, they kind of highlight these kind of hints. Like, they give a hint of what happened. Like, Randy Orton saying in an interview that Brock Lesnar didn't like people, and that's why he left. John Cena says because he got tired of the travel, the schedule, and whatnot, and says that if Brock Lesnar had stayed, he would have just been done and not survived the WWE. And that and it's highly debatable regarding what happened, but the fans were livid to hear that these two guys were leaving the company on the same night. And the match stunk. Let's be honest, the match stunk. But I don't think it's the worst match in WrestleMania history. Like, it's one of the worst, but not the worst. Like, at least it wasn't the main event, like that one with Bam Bam Bigelow, despite the fact that Shawn Michaels and Diesel should have been the main event. But that's a completely different story. And something told me heading into this match, they didn't care either. Like when I was watching this match on the WWE Network, I just had that vibe in me that said, yeah, these guys really don't care. Like, I'm pretty sure the fans kind of got to them a bit. I mean, like, Lesnar could care less. Goldberg, I don't know. Like, he spent so much trying to be a hero for the kids to hear hardcore fans say you sold out and you suck and calling him Goldberg and saying Goldberg sucks. Like, I'm pretty sure that bothered him a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't know the guy personally. It'd be awesome if I did. But, I always had a theory going on in my head that Goldberg and Lesnar, they didn't care about doing this match. Like, Goldberg's booking was bad during his run in WWE, and Lesnar, well, he was leaving anyways, and he could care less about what the fans wanted. And when the fans were booing both of them, it just made the match worse. Like, the commentary tried everything they could. Like, back then the commentary was so great. Like, it could kind of carry a match and make it seem important. And also the fans could make the match seem more important than it actually is. And the commentators couldn't get this match to work. Like, and the fans didn't want this match to work. Like, they wanted these guys to stay. Like, why can't they wrestle for us? Sort of like what happened with The Rock. When he was leaving for Hollywood, the fans turned on him because he was leaving. He didn't want to wrestle anymore. But at least Rock gave it his all when he left, whereas Goldberg and Lesnar, they didn't seem to care. Now, this is just speculation. I'm not saying this is 100% fact. But, yeah. And especially how the match ended. Like, I was surprised Goldberg won the match. Like, I was thinking, like, Brock Lesnar would win the match, but since Brock Lesnar was leaving WWE to go to NFL, something told me that this was WWE's way of punishing Lesnar to make him leave with a whimper, and it doesn't help that after the match, when fans were booing him again, Lesnar just went ahead, gave the middle finger to the audience, and then sent it to Stone Cold, who was pretty much impartial throughout the entire match. He didn't play biased roles, and there was no controversy, which is not common for Stone Cold Steve Austin. And when it comes to being the referee, there's always some form of outside interference regarding him. But Lesnar, like, got a Stone Cold Stunner by Steve Austin. Then Goldberg came back into the ring to celebrate with Austin, and the fans booed him. And then Stone Cold stunned Goldberg, and I was like, yep, that's the best way to send them off. Like, that was clearly your best way to send them off, WWE. Because these guys were leaving, you decided to be petty about it and order Steve Austin, yeah, can you send them out with a whimper to make them go out looking like losers and you look like the dominant guy? Even though you have nothing to gain from this whatsoever and you're not a full-time wrestler anymore. You're just there for ratings reasons. So, yeah, it was a pretty bad match, and it was even a worse ending. And even more so, the build-up was alright. Like, I didn't like the fact Goldberg would speak because Goldberg doesn't talk right when it comes to promos. Like, it took 12 years for him to finally deliver a great promo. But now, considering how this match turned out, people were like, okay, at least it only happened once. Like, there's no way they would bring this match back, right? Like, considering how everything turned out for those two guys, we thought they would never come back. And let's see, Lesnar came back in 2012 after UFC and TNA and IW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, he didn't go to TNA. Like, they kind of highlighted it, like how he was feuding with Kurt Angle at the time in a champion versus championship match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then the NFL, and he left the NFL after like a year, I think, or 6 months. So, yeah, I don't know what happened on that. So, anyways, Lesnar wouldn't return until 2012, which would be approximately, let's see, eh, 8 years later. And let's see, Goldberg wouldn't return until 12 years later. And Brock Lesnar finally got what he wanted. At least he's a part timer. He can get paid full time benefits without performing. He could just suplex, 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 and he's the second highest paid wrestler behind John Cena. So I say he managed to get what he wanted. But moving on from that, yeah. And now there's going to be a rematch between the two of them, a match that nobody asked for, and the build-up has been entirely confusing, and the fact that it's taking place in Canada is going to be confusing, because this is the first time since '97 that Survivor Series was at Canada. And I was wrong. It wasn't in the same. It's not taking place in the same arena or the same area. This is in Toronto. What happened in '97 was in Montreal. But still, that's a disaster waiting to happen. You obviously don't care. But I'm trying to be optimistic here, but I'm still pessimistic, nonetheless. But I get the feeling this match might be somewhat better, but because this time, well, actually, I'm not really confident that much. Like, I'm hoping that the match is better than this time, but Goldberg has an injured shoulder a bit, tweaked his shoulder during his last angle with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is more limited than ever than he was back then, and Goldberg hasn't wrestled in 12 years, something that Brock Lesnar highlighted. So, really, this match could potentially be worse than their WrestleMania 20 encounter. So we don't know what's going to happen till Survivor Series. So those are my thoughts on Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20. This was Near Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.